So, Matthew 17:14, and when they came to the crowd, a man came up to him, and kneeling before him, said, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he has seizures and suffers terribly. For he often falls into the fire and often into the water, and I brought him to your disciples, and they could not heal him. And Jesus answered, O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him here to me. Faithless, the demonic, breeds faithlessness and fear. Leviathan breeds a twisting. And Jesus rebuked the demon, came out of him. The boy was healed instantly. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, Hey, Jesus, why couldn't we cast it out? Then he said to them, Because of your little faith. We've already dealt with the mustard seed. It's not size, it's presence and potential like mustard seed. For truly I say to you, if you have faith like a grain of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, Move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible to you. Now, let's cover the footnote, Matthew 17:21. Some manuscripts insert verse 21, but this kind never comes out except by prayer and fasting. Mark 9:29 also says this, and it's also read in the ESV and in the NIV and several other translations as this kind only comes out through prayer. The priority of prayer, the priority of fasting, and the way they actually function and how you can use them when you're dealing with an exorcism situation. We are responsible to fast. Every single one of us that names the name of Christ is responsible for the discipline of fasting as much as the discipline of prayer. If we do not pray, we do not connect with the Lord. If we do not fast, we do not increase our dependence on the Lord. Now, we like to take it to mean fast from media, fast from entertainment, and those things are good and well and dandy and fine. I am going to talk about the abstention from food for a spiritual purpose. We are responsible as believers, as followers of the Lord, to fast. He doesn't say in the Sermon on the Mount, if you fast. He says in the Sermon on the Mount, when you fast. He assumes fasting is going to be part of the average believer's daily walk. It's not an advanced thing. This is not meat, this is milk. You are responsible as a believer, if you name the name of Christ, to engage in the discipline of regular fasting. John Wesley's disciples, once a week, his students, the people that worked with him, the people that he mentored, the Methodist order of evangelists within the Anglican Communion, practiced the habit of weekly fasting. And they are greatly effective in their culture. They're greatly effective at transforming the colonies. We are responsible to abstain from food from time to time for a spiritual purpose, as opposed to making our gods our stomachs and worshiping whatever we eat through the sin of gluttony, which is not often discussed. The fruit of the Spirit is
self-control.
Thank you, Mass. Precisely right. The fruit of the Spirit is self-control. Self-control in all things. So we restrain when the Spirit says to restrain, and we move when the Spirit says to move, and we engage when the Spirit says to engage. And we execute when the Spirit says to execute. And if He gives us an opportunity and a choice in raw materials and says, create something, our job is to reach into our spirit and to create something. We are made in His image, which means we are also made to imitate what He is and what He does. We were made and designed and hardwired for holiness and righteousness, and we were designed and made and hardwired to make and to create incessantly, to invent airplanes, for example, submarines, aircraft carriers, And the list goes on and on and on. And oftentimes we only come to those cracks when we get really and truly desperate and we study a problem out and we weave a bunch of principles together. One of those principles that's going to turbocharge a whole lot of what we do in the Lord is fasting. As in, I close my mouth, I take water, and I remove food from the equation because I'm pursuing the Lord. And instead of my mealtime, I spend time in the Word with Him in prayer, singing to Him, making melody in my heart, connecting with other people, anointing my head with oil as the metaphor goes, and not disfiguring my face like the Pharisees did, so as to appear to men to fast. You do it in secret, so that your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you openly. Do you have anything to add, my dear? Oftentimes, as we are executing something or executing a fast, it's the prequel to a deliverance, to some sort of ministry, to some sort of work that we're supposed to engage in. It can lay the groundwork, and if we've got stones in our soil of our hearts, Matthew chapter 13, when he talked about the parable of the four soils, the fasting can become as a hammer to break up the rocks. Through the application of the word. Is not my word a fire, saith the Lord, and a hammer to break the rocks into pieces? We are responsible to fast. Especially if we've got a stony place that's stubborn and will not yield. Sometimes you apply the fast to it, you get yourself in the Word and out and away from your food, and the Word breaks up the rocks. So that we can see more clearly, so that we can focus more intensely on Him, so that we can receive what He has for us. James 4:8, which says,
draw near to God and He'll draw near to you.
He will draw near. He desires to draw near. One of His names that I'm going to be covering in this book that I'm writing on the names of God is the God who draws near. You look at, let's actually go to that account. Genesis chapter 18. Look at the implications here. 18 or 17. Okay. And the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre as he sat at the door of the tent in the heat of the day. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing in front of him. When he saw them, he ran from the door of the tent to meet him and bowed himself to the earth and said, O Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree while I bring a morsel of bread, so that you may refresh yourselves, and then after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant. So they said, do as you have said. So it continues onward to give this account of the prophecy of Isaac's birth and the eating of veal and curds and milk and fine flour making cakes. And then it goes on and proceeds down to verse 22 to 32, where Abraham intercedes for Sodom because he knows what's going on with Lot. And he says, hey, shall not the judge of the earth do what is right? Are you going to wipe out the righteous with the wicked? The Lord promises not to take away the righteous in amidst the wicked. And it says here, and the Lord went on his way when he had finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. And it also says here, Genesis 18:23. Then Abraham drew near and said, draw near to God. Will you do this and whatnot? And the Lord said, if I find these people that are righteous, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Abraham drew near to God. God drew near to Abraham in response. And the Lord went his way, which means in order for him to leave Abraham, he had to come to Abraham to begin with. He originally drew near to Abraham. Abraham drew even nearer to the Lord, and the Lord responded in kind by saying, he's getting it. He's getting my heart. So as we fast, it's for us to connect with his heart more deeply than we currently are, and to break up something stubborn that otherwise would not be broken up, so that we can throw the demon out, bring freedom, bring healing, bring deliverance, bring whatever it is we need, bring revelation or clarity to a situation, and reject fear and engage in increasing and catalyzing our faith to a greater place.
So I would encourage you, on top of that, even if you don't have a stubborn spot, or you don't know of a upcoming deliverance, or that you don't have something in the moment that you're looking for, a fast is still there are things that are going on in the spirit realm that you don't know about. There are things that are going to happen. So listen to the prompting of the Holy Spirit. If you're being prompted to fast, the Lord knows something you don't. It always knows stuff we don't. If you're being prompted to fast, I would exhort you to do it. Yes. Because you don't know what's coming up, and he does, and you may need that. Whatever he's looking to drop into you during that fast time, you're going to need it for the next challenge. Yep. And you won't be prepared as he wants you to be when that challenge happens if you don't listen to that prompting. And the other part is, even if you're not feeling a prompting, truthfully, it may be because there was several times in the past when there was a prompting that was ignored, and so there's a searing. You know how don't sear your heart. You know, if the Lord is working something in you and you ignore it, or you bypass it, or you justify it away, over time you don't hear it anymore. So, and that's not the end of the world. It's a 1 John 1:9. You know, confess the sin and ask the Lord to help you to hear again, yes. Soften your heart, to stir that back up. You know, you could even fast for the purpose of asking the Lord to help you hear him better, or you know, to restore something that's been hardened, or you know, to put his finger on something that needs to be corrected. But I guess my point is, don't bypass the opportunity to fast because, I don't have something coming up that I have to fast for, you know, or I am not feeling a prompting from the Lord. Mm-hmm. You know, there are reasons to fast just for the purpose of fasting, to see what he's got for you. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. That was outstanding. Absolutely. There are going to be times, and even if for some reason you've got that little bit of a pattern of searing because you rejected, maybe try something, because maybe you start fasting and the Lord says, oh, they're serious. Now I'm going to catalyze something else that'll get them the prompting for that regular dynamic. It's never too late. You're never in a place of despair. You have so much opportunity, and he wants to cultivate a deeper desire in you for him and his things. Gang, we bless you with the tenacity and the skill to know when to fast. And the reason why I waited and did several sessions of this passage before I covered fasting is because fasting is a part, it's not the major part. It is one part of many, and we need to deal with the facet of how the mesmerizing spirit and Leviathan twist things, or blind us to things, or pickpocket things from us. In addition to the fasting dynamic, we need to build this passage out and see all the little different facets, and not just, prayer and fasting, and they took it from us, and every other Bible is corrupted, and the King James Version is correct because it includes prayer and fasting. No. It's an aspect, and it's a part. And you need people who can bring all those parts out so you can look at them. We bless you to see all the parts of this passage as we move from it into continuing our study in the Gospel of Matthew. We love you guys. We bless you.